Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muliwanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is Kat Kronenberg. She is coming to us from the big state of Texas to celebrate her trilogy of books, Dream Big, Live Big, and Think Big. Before we invite Kat into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Snoodles, Cadoodles, Poodles, and lots of noodles by our friend Stephen Joseph. Are you looking for an absolutely delicious book to dive into with your kids? Well, you need to look no further than Snoodles, Cadoodles, Poodles, and lots of noodles. This book tastes and smells so good, your kids will want more. Author Stephen Joseph invites readers to enter a world where imagination can solve any challenge and where even the crankiest person can find happiness. To find out how you can add this deliciously fun book to your family library, please visit StephenJosephAuthor.com. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by The Adventures of Harry and Friends, the wonderful picture book series by Sarah Tucker. Does your child throw frequent tantrums? Do they have to win at everything they try? I Quit is a hugely popular book with parents now experiencing the same difficulty. You can pick up your copy of I Quit by Sarah Tucker at Amazon and Barnes & Noble and help your child become more resilient today. The Adventures of Harry and Friends is a great series that will inspire your kids' imagination and prepare them for life's real challenges. Check it out today at adventuresofharryandfriends.com. Joining us right now from Austin in the great state of Texas, our guest today is here to celebrate 3 amazing picture books. Dream Big, Love Big, Think Big. Please welcome to the show, Kat Kronenberg. Hey, Kat, how are you?
Great. I'm so excited to be here, and I love your energy.
I'm wondering, does the fact that your books all have the word big in it any relation to the fact that you're living in Texas? Is that just a coincidence?
Oh, I love that question. I have to say, in 4 years, that's the first time I've ever been asked that, and everything is bigger in Texas. Yeah.
That is the
we
first
live big, we think big, we dream big here. I'm just saying.
Well, I'd like to know who you've been interviewed by if they didn't think to ask
a
you.
lot, and a lot of Texas, Austin interview, everything. And I know I've never been asked that.
That's
what.
Really well,
kind of fun because you think Texas, you think big, but all us Texans, I guess, just take it for granted.
There you go. Okay, all right. Well, I've never been to Texas, but Texas culture is kind of. It's in the air, and there's something very different. We've hosted international kids here in our home, and I remember being on the road trip with one of our daughters from Italy, and we drove from Boston to Atlanta and Mobile, Alabama, and back to D.C., and she was amazed at how big that part of the country was, and she's like, wow, we would have already driven through 4 countries over in Europe, and we're still here in the same country. We've mentioned that, different parts of the country have their own cultures. Texas is one of those places that seems to have a very, very distinct culture and mindset.
Definitely. And it can take up forever to drive through it as well. So she would think she'd been in 10 countries by the time she crossed it.
So let's start at the beginning. I guess the beginning is
Yes.
dream. We dream big.
Yes, dream big. I love to say my books were harder to birth than my kids, but really whacked me over the head at a symphony that I was meant to write books about the power of a smile to encourage us all ages, to live our best life. And so it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to write or how. I knew it was a smile. And so now they're based on African animals and 3 powerful secrets. So each book is its own secret. And the secrets are based, I went to Africa and did a bunch of research because my kids loved animals. We would go to the library and just get stacks and stacks of books and decided it had to be animals. So went to Africa and did research and met some really cool different tribes, and they just love stardust, the stars and the evening and just the power. And they kind of had different stories based around them. And so I built the 3 secrets out of their kind of stories. And then Carl Sagan, a famous scientist, says that we're all made of stardust. So each secret is based on the fact that the animals get to become the hero of their story by lighting the stardust in their heart. So dream big, you kind of smile big in who you are and trust the universe made you extraordinary and your dreams come true. You get to see a caterpillar turn into a butterfly, a tadpole, a frog, a flamingo who's born white, which I had no idea. Then they turn an awful gray before they turn a beautiful pink. So it plays on all those cool little sciences of real things that happens in the animal that we can relate to in our own lives to help us kind of fight like the animals did to become the hero of our story and light the stardust in our heart.
Yeah.
So,
you know, that flamingo story that I was kind of aware of, you just kind of reminded me, that's a beautiful kind of story to remind kids of. I think especially kids in their teens or their tweens.
Exactly, the
kids,
awkward phases.
That really kind of awkward, gray, what am I going to be next? And I'm not crazy about who I am right now. And how can I believe that I'm going to be anything but yucky?
Yeah, and in the story, a baboon makes fun of her. So she goes from white to just taking on the pain of that physically. You know, you go on my website and kind of see how that plays out, life skills and emotionally for the animals, kind of goes into a little more detail than the book that, you know, the flamingo took it on physically and became gray, but then she just kind of remembered that she's born extraordinary, that she has this stardust in her, that she can light up. And then she just turns beautiful, amazing shade of pink. And my life story is a flamingo. I'm a flamingo and a butterfly and a tadpole. I've had a really hard life. I think that's why these books tapped me on the shoulder of just how do you put into words for kids that are relatable to get to their best life, no matter what they've been through.
Yeah. And for those of you can't see Kat right now, but she is actually wearing pink.
I am. And I have my BU and Smile shirt on.
That's right. Yes. Interesting. I'm going to let you think about whether or not you're going to share what made your life so difficult earlier. But before I ask you about that, what's Love Big all about?
So Dream Big is kind of, you know, just smiling big and trusting the universe. Mm-hmm. And then Share Big, it's a couple generations later. It's at the beginning of time for Africa when life first began. And there's not enough food to go around. So the animals start quitting on their dream, and it plays out that if they share a smile, the stardust that surrounds them can come in and light the stardust in their heart. Like simple science is 2 hydrogen atoms fused together to make helium, and that's what a star is. So, you know, you kind of take Dream Big's the stardust above you, your wished upon star. Love Big's, the stardust around you comes in and lights the stardust in your heart. So you share smiles, you learn kindness, sharing, care, and listening with different animals. A lion learns to listen and he becomes the king of the jungle. A dung beetle who's born in poop. Yes, they are my favorite animal in all of Africa. They learn to care and they change everything. I mean, they call him the hero of the savannah. Everybody gets to eat because of what dung beetle does. So it's fun. They're really fun. They play on really the purpose of these animals and how they get their amazing lives through different life skills.
You know, you mentioned that you traveled to Africa. You met a lot of folks and in different tribes across the continent. And they have these stories about stars and stardust. And they have this understanding, this ancient understanding that science has kind of introduced to us. This ancient understanding that we're all connected with the stars, and that the stars are there because different elements came together. And if we can learn from that, if we can learn that we are part of stardust, and if we can come together, wonderful things can happen. And then here it is with all our technology, we go, yeah, those guys are right. We are all made of stardust. We're all, and it's really important for us to come together. We just kind of have to make it complicated, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, and just miss the beauty of it. I think our mainstream life, I think in Africa, some of the places you go, life is still simpler, and they kind of are forced to slow down and enjoy the beauty that's around them. And when you spend time in nature, even in my backyard, sometimes I can get back to that truth of, oh my gosh, I'm connected to all this and therefore connected to everyone and everything. And it's just I love it. It just kind of makes you smile and want to start living big again. So,
yeah, I get that connection with nature when I'm out in my backyard swinging in my hammock right before I go to sleep.
Oh, that's heaven.
Hey, Africa is this big, giant continent. I know you weren't able to travel to every corner of the continent. What countries did you travel to, and what tribes did you encounter?
Mostly Maasai warriors, some others, but that would be the primary one. Kenya. I went later to do photos for another book that I'm working on with my son just recently, to like the crater and everywhere else in Tanzania and that area. We hiked Kilimanjaro, but also South Africa for my book research. So I've gotten to go a couple of times now. So I've been very, very lucky. It's like my favorite thing. I just love Africa. It's a really good teacher for me.
That's wonderful. And how about Think Big? Think Big.
Think Big. I love it. You don't miss a beat. I was wondering. So Think Big is the third secret. And it's we have stardust really throughout our body. And so in this story, the animals take long, deep breaths and kind of do an inside smile where their heart connects with their head. Sometimes I forget to connect my heart and head, and decisions are hard. So life is still hard. There's not enough food, and then lightning strikes a tree. So now there's a fire. So it's even more complicated. They've got to find food, and then they have to problem solve for survival. So you just watch different animals take long, deep breaths and have an inside smile. A U-shaped bridge is what I call it, to connect their head and their heart. And you see a giraffe grow a long neck, and a honeybee be grateful and do his little bun dance, and a baobab tree, which one of my favorite things besides a dung beetle that I saw in Africa, is a hero in the story too.
Wow. Wonderful. Wonderful. My beautiful wife and I were talking today about how we can choose the way we look at the world. And we can choose to be focused on the negative. We can choose that I don't have enough. Or we can choose to celebrate what we do have and really appreciate what it is that we do have, and how much happier we are when we take that positive approach. And what a beautiful gift that is for us to give to our kids.
Exactly. And in the back of each book, it kind of gives you exercise. And in Think Big, in the back, it talks about the 3 G's, where one of the biggest ones is gratitude. Goals, gratitude, and giving. And if you celebrate those 3 G's every day, you're going to have, no matter what happens, just like even the story, life works out. I mean, it's, you can make a little exercise with it and start every day with the kindness you're going to give. And so, the 3 G's are really fun, and the exercises in the back make it really family-focused fun.
I like that. I like, we talk about encouraging our kids to have goals and to help them, even if those goals change, but to help them, kind of focus and believe, and kids with goals, kids with dreams do better in school. They are happier. But how much better and how much happier would they be if they're also, in addition to their goals, they think about what they're grateful for and also think about what it is they can give to others? Because kids and adults, they experience a lot of joy when they're able to give and to lift other people up.
Exactly. And it makes the roller coaster rides of your goals not judge. You don't judge them. You're busy giving and being grateful. It just keeps it all go like a bicycle. You're just going forward. You're still striving. It keeps you moving forward in a positive way.
Yeah. Speaking of roller coaster, you kind of alluded earlier that you've kind of lived a roller coaster life. Share whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, yes, for sure. I'm a wide open book. It's on my website too, but I lost a brother. He had an arrhythmia, just died perfectly healthy in his sleep. And I was old enough at the time to know I had no life skills and I had nothing underneath me, so go to bed one night, everything's perfect. The next morning, my life just implodes, and no one in my family had the life skills to really deal with it. So, I kind of, God bless my parents, raised myself and really found through all hundreds of books, religions, and, just studying and counseling and philosophies, how to get to your best life. As Viktor Frankl says, he's one of my favorite. It's in English, it's Man's Search for Meaning, but he lost his whole family in the concentration camp. But the original title of his book was Nevertheless, Say Yes to Life. And so through each character in my book, you see them fighting for their yes. And my parents didn't fight for their yes after my brother died, so I was young enough that I had a whole life ahead of me, could I fight for my yes? And yes, I can. And a smile is an outward expression of a yes. And I've since lost a sister from the same arrhythmia. She had 2 kids, adopted her children, her husband since passed. So, they've been orphaned, lost my parents. So a lot of just, a lot of sudden death and tragedy. So these principles and the things that are incorporated in these stories are just the road I've taken to really, ideally, hopefully put a foundation under kids. So they're not like me when my brother died that, okay, now what? I just banged around. I laugh at, when I do speaking events or, get kind of real with people that I banged around in a dark closet, not knowing, just not knowing, not having life skills really. I had a great education and a great family, but it's just so these books are meant to kind of bridge the gap depending on what does or does not happen in an individual's life. It's
so tragic, and I'm so sorry for
your
losses.
Really, just part of my story now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but it's wonderful that you were able to find a way to say yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that to hopefully through these books that other kids, and it's really amazing. I get messages from kids that are really going through real stuff, and I'll see pictures of them just holding my books like they're a lifeline. So, for me, there's no greater moment in my whole life than to see that it's been, a little bright light, or just it's brought meaning into those kids' life. And it's really been a lot of kids that have had hardships already at young ages that really connect to the hidden agenda and meaning and just richness in these books, which just thrills me.
That is something I think we all don't think about enough, that there are lots of kids in this world that are experiencing great grief, loss. They're terrified, and your kids may be blessed that they're not having to go through that at this moment, but some of their classmates are. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where your kids. Well, maybe if your kids are homeschooled, but your kids will still be going out to different activities. And there's so much life, because part of life is suffering and struggle.
Exactly.
And there's so many kids that are struggling out there. And if we can help our kids, even if they're not going through the struggle at the moment, help them have empathy for the fact that there are kids out there, and also help them learn that they can get through this, and give them, as you were saying, give them those life skills that you didn't have when you needed them.
And it's really powerful, because if we have them, then it's not so scary. You know, like now, like, you know, losing people after my brother, I knew I could get through it. I kind of had built a foundation underneath me. And ideally these books, you know, will be something that'll echo in the back of a kid's head or a family's head, to give them some ideas on how to really, you know, create a we together and keep smiling and fighting for their yes together and living big.
Yeah. So what big thing are you going to be telling us about next?
Well, they're looking at doing a TV series. So I'm in the game. I'm only probably on the 5-yard line. There's tons of radio that still has to happen, but golly, would I be excited to see it happen. Just, you know, I've been doing research the last month, watching different kids shows, and I would just love a show that was fun and just cool, but had some depth and meaning to it. So, so y'all, all you viewer listeners, y'all can send it some good energy, because I would love to see us win the game and get it done. So
that would be awesome. How exciting. How exciting.
Yeah.
And it is, we've talked a lot here in the podcast about how surprisingly long it takes for a picture book to come to life. Very often it can take 2 or 3 years, even longer when we're talking about television and movies and video.
Yeah, well, I knew nothing about it 6 months ago, and now I'm in the game, which I'm like, holy cow, it kind of came to me. So I'm super excited, but I'm learning really fast. There's about as many people as it took to build a book. It's quadruple that for a video.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know in the meantime, people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about Dream Big, Love Big, Think Big, and find out more about Kat Kronenberg.
Yay. Well, my website is my name, katkronenberg.com. And you can get my books there. For all your listeners, you can put in that code FAMILY and you'll get 30% off, and I can personalize them, sign them. You can find them Barnes & Noble, Target, anywhere books are sold. But if you want a personalized book with a discount, go on my website. And then on my website, my last blog post makes it super user-friendly. It has curriculum, it has animal fact sheets, it has fun downloads, you can write your own stories, it has everything. And the last blog post I did during COVID, just to make it super user friendly, topic friendly, but everything's on there. It's all free in the fun and learn section, just to take what you learn in the books and have fun in the books and take it to all different levels depending on what you want, from science to writing to life skills.
Awesome. We've had a really big, wonderful time speaking to the author of Dream Big, Love Big, Think Big, 3 picture books from our guest, Kat Kronenberg. Hey, Kat, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. You are a joy to talk to, and thank you for celebrating books with kids. It is just truly one of the most powerful things. I have to say, becoming a writer, I saw how important it was to read to my kids. So I couldn't encourage people enough.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Matt Hammersley. He'll be here to introduce us to a really fun app that will bring your reading with your kids to the next level. The name of the app is Novel Effect. It was featured on Shark Tank. So we're really excited to welcome him to the next episode of the podcast. If you're an author of a fantastic children's book, please visit readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the author's Click Here button at the top of the page to find out how we can help you celebrate your book. You can be a guest here on the podcast. It's fun. It's easy. It gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic book in a long-form conversation here on the podcast. You can also learn how you can submit your book to our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read panel. If they believe that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes Certified Great Read, letting families know that your book is worthy of their consideration. And of course, be sure to check out our monthly promotion program. We can celebrate your books with commercials here in the podcast, with messages to our 84,000 plus social media followers, and also display your book on our nationwide network of digital pedestrian billboards. And now that the pandemic seems to be over and folks are getting back together in live events, we'll be displaying your book in our booth at a number of fantastic live events around the country. Learn all about that and more by going to readingwithyourkids.com and clicking on that author's click here button at the top of the page. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guest, Kat Kronenberg. Please be sure to check out Dream Big, Love Big, Think Big. Also want to thank our sponsor, Sarah Tucker. Be sure to check out The Adventures of Harry and Friends. Also want to thank Stephen Joseph. Please be sure to check out Snoodles, Cadoodles, Oodles, and lots of noodles. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Skylar Strauss. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.